The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, welcome to the first Riviera Beach Singer Island virtual town hall. I want you to know that there are 110 attendees this evening. We don't have to feed you coffee and donuts tonight because you're all at home enjoying yourselves in your own cozy place. Welcome. It's great that we have so many people attending this evening. I want to give a few remarks before I pass the baton to Mr. Evans. First, a reminder that please complete the census. I sent something out lately showing the difference between, very interesting, we're broken down into small segments actually, and you can see how many people on the east side of Singer Island and the people on the west side, what the percentages are. I gotta tell you, East Siders, you got a long way to go. You got a long way to go. Sorry. So the east side has 35.7% so far done, and the west side of the street has 49.9%. So a little competition going here. It's good for us, but we've got to get those numbers up, because in the last census, the amount of money we got from the federal government was $1.18 million. And that was with only about probably 60% of the people responding. So the more we respond, the more federal money we will get. And you know what that means? More federal money hopefully means less local dollars we have to use to support our budget. I also want to remind you, please vote by mail if you can. This is a horrible time to be standing online to vote. And if you have the ability to vote by mail, it's so easy. I've been doing it myself for years and years, and it makes life very, very easy. You can sit and contemplate the ballot and make sure you're making the right choice and take your time, and it's very, very easy to do. That's all right. Oh,
Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an attendee in listen-only mode.
So, without further ado, I want to get into a topic that's very important to a lot of us here in the community. And one of the things that has been a major initiative by Councilperson Botel and the City Council is the preservation of our pristine water bodies. And Representative Caruso has been instrumental with regards to what he's doing in Tallahassee to assist us in moving the needle forward to make sure we preserve these waterways for future generations. So thank you for your leadership. So we have our new department director, Mr. Clarence Sermon, that joins us from Texas. He's just joined the agency, is well credentialed, has advanced degrees, and is a professional planner by trade. And so were we able to lure him to the Sunshine State? He has his in-laws actually reside in the state of Florida. So I knew once we were interviewing him, once I found the in-laws were around the area, I said, we got him. He can't escape that. So we're certainly excited to have him on board. He's a new father of two, and so looking forward to a lot of great things that Director Sermons will bring to the agency, and welcome aboard. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Director Clarence Sermon of our Development Services Department.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction, Mr. Evans. One correction, though, I am actually a Florida native. I am from here in Palm Beach County. So no, you didn't have to make a hard sell for me to come here I'm back home from Texas, so to speak. But I'm very happy to be here, and you guys definitely threw me into the deep end with everything going on here, including the Special Preservation Ordinance, and I'm happy to be here to talk about it today. So in the highest form of what we're doing here is ensuring compliance with city documents. So the governing document for land use in our city is the comprehensive plan. And for many years now, our comprehensive plan has dedicated the land, west of Ocean Drive as a special preservation district. However, our zoning map.
Could you, if you're not speaking, I'm going to mute my mic, and I'll ask anybody who's not speaking right now to.
Yeah, so virtually all of the land west of Ocean Drive is on our comprehensive plan, which is the highest governing document of our land use, is designated as special preservation. However, our zoning map, we have not cleaned up in a while for the city, and it currently shows that land as residential. The comprehensive plan, again, is a governing document, so no one is allowed to build residences there. However, it does create some confusion, some ambiguity, and we don't want that. We want to remove that. And so the purpose of this is to ensure all of that land west of Ocean Drive is zoned in accordance with our comprehensive plan map. So that's a state requirement that we need to make sure those items match up. And what we're doing right now is making sure we get that piece of housekeeping taken care of. So we've had the first reading on that, and I'm sure many of the residents are aware of that. I know the attendance for that council meeting was very high. There was a lot of public interest in it. So yes, we had the first discussion or presentation for council for that item, and we are in between the first and second reading now. At the first reading at council, there was a request for additional information to be brought forth towards council, and that's what we've been working on in the interim, and that's why it hasn't been a back-to-back meeting. And so we are getting additional information. It was requested just to make sure we have additional or confirmed all of the studies that show that those are indeed environmental areas. So we're just getting that documentation in order and presenting that to council so that everyone can be confident and comfortable about the zoning moving forward for that. So in my humble opinion, I think all of that would be squared away in the coming weeks. And so I would think towards the end of August, we should look towards having all of that resolved and be able to move forward to the next ordinance. But Councilwoman Botel and our city manager know far more than I do on when things are going to move forward. But that's essentially what's happening with that agenda item. And I am here if anyone has any questions related to it.
I know that people at home might be asking this question.
Okay.
Prior to the adoption of this ordinance, how many homes could be built if the ordinance is not passed, which we hope it will be. If the ordinance is not passed, how many homes could be built along there per acre?
Zero homes. Zero homes, because our comprehensive plan designates that land as special preservation. The density allowed in special preservation is zero. So although again, there is some confusion because the zoning doesn't match up, either way, we would not be able to legally allow a permit for any type of construction on any of that property. And again, this agenda item to change that zoning is just to make sure our documents match up.
Great. Okay. I would like people to know I was asked by a group of people who have a petition going around the city right now. I was asked by them to announce that if anybody wants to sign a petition, you may know that at our last meeting on this topic, I think we had a good number, probably more than several hundred, let's say, letters of interest, emails, and so on, supporting it. But this group is asking people if they want to support it and want to sign the petition, they could email Karen Gleason, and her email address is kgleason, that's KGLEASON, at karengleason.com. I'll repeat that. If you want to sign the petition in support of the ordinance, which would the ordinance will bring our zoning into compliance with our comprehensive plan and call that whole area a special preservation area, you can email Karen Gleason at KGLEASON at karengleason.com. So that's, and if there are any other questions for Mr. Sermons, again, Sam Brown is on the case, and he's stbrown@rivierabeach.org. Do we have any questions, Sam, before we move on?
Madam Chair, if I may, with regards to the special preservation process, right now, what the request from the council is that they wanted to look at a survey and surveying those particular properties. And so we've done some research from the staff side and have seen that a survey would cost about $60,000, and it's a very expensive proposition. So staff has come up with an alternative that we believe that can satisfy the information that's been requested of the council. We would then look to call a special workshop to address those concerns that the council did have, and then look to move forward with getting this squared away for second and final reading. And our intent is to move forward with second and final reading at our second meeting in August. And so that's our target date. So we're doing everything on the staff side to be able to fulfill those requests and inquiries that were made by the board when the conversation ensued when we first discussed this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. And on my screen, I have Representative Caruso in front of me here, and I'm not sure that everybody else can see him. I hope they can. I want to thank him for being here this evening and thank him for the support that he's given us in terms of preserving our wetlands and preserving that area. So thank you. We'll hear from Representative Caruso in a few minutes he'll give us a legislative update and so on. But right now, I'm going to ask Mr. Evans to introduce Lina Busby, who is the attorney who's been working on the derelict boat issue. We had a very good meeting with lots of people there. Lina, if Lina doesn't enumerate the attendees, I will do so when she's done. But we had a very good meeting. Everyone from Hal Balachet right down to me, and we came up with a plan. So I will let Lina tell you about that. Evans?
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the community, Ms. Lina Busby, our assistant city attorney that has served us faithfully in every role and responsibility that we have thrown her way. And I can tell you that the derelict boats item has been a controversial item, but I assure you that over the last year, we have taken a lot of steps to improve the city's position and ensure that we follow what the law prescribes to be able to remove these vessels, because nobody wants them out of our pristine waterways more than all of us on the call. So without further ado, Ms. Busby.
We're not hearing you, Lina.
Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Botel. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Good evening, Representative Caruso. It is true, last week, Chair Botel hosted a very highly attended and very vocal meeting discussing the derelict vessel policy and some other issues related to the waterways. Now, in attendance were representatives from local coastal communities, municipalities, the county, we have lagoon keepers, and a number of other persons highly invested in this area. One of the main things that was expressed is that we all want to keep our waterways safe, clean, and maintain the natural beauty. Now, the city saw this issue and there were some changes in the derelict vessel laws pertaining to derelict vessels. So the city went and made a comprehensive update to its derelict vessel policy in which our new chief is actively enforcing with its marine unit. The policy really was shoring up some legal issues regarding notice to vessel owners, but also it was enacted so that we can really aggressively go after any of these junked or substantially dismantled vessels in our waterways, especially with the upcoming hurricane season. Chair Botel expressed that that is a very big concern and that we are going to, push our enforcement in this area. While the city's actively investigating and following its policy with respect to getting a number of these vessels out, we are also seeking to get reimbursement from the state FWC derelict vessel removal grant program. So that's also an important thing that our marine unit is well funded that way. Now, we had a resident that was concerned about raw sewage disposal into the waterways. And that was important because they were alleging that they have seen this. And I know that Chair Botel supported our enforcers saying that, if they don't see it, they can't really issue that citation. So, our citizens can be active in this area. And if they see something like that happen, they can take video footage and they can report it to our marine unit. That way we can have them properly cited, because there is a code of ordinances that requires them to have the proper waste removal equipment if they are on a liveaboard. And liveaboards pursuant to our code, permanent liveaboards are not, are prohibited by the code of ordinances. Then we went on to discuss in our meeting the issue of floating structures, and Chair Botel supported the measure to have a task force created, with the very specific goal of having all of the municipalities and the county on the same page regarding our laws and enforcement of these floating structures and liveaboards.
I'm muted. Thank you, Lina. That was great. We have Chief Osgood with us here, and I thought I would ask him, I gave him a heads up about this earlier, if he would let us know about how our police marine unit is enforcing some of these regulations. Chief Osgood?
You're on mute, Chief. But I'm sure whatever you said was just amazing.
You're still muted, Chief. Well, I will tell you that I know that Chief Osgood has been working on 3 particular boats that are out there, and we have we've been citing. I don't know if you have seen the Facebook post that I put out there. This gentleman by the name of Jonathan was out there on this interesting looking vessel. And there was actually a video clip that he himself posted on his Facebook page showing our officers citing him. And I thought it was a great way to show people that we are working on this. This is not something that we're ignoring or letting it under the rug. We are seriously concerned about this issue. And Chief Osgood has his Marine unit working diligently to cite the ones we can cite. Ms. Busby, could you please repeat what you said about liveaboards? Because that's a real concern, not only the derelict boats, and you should know that we got a good idea at that meeting from a guy by the name of Greg Reynolds, who runs an organization called Lagoon Keepers. And it's Greg that has the task of pulling these boats out when they're half sunken and so on. And he educated us about the difference between derelict boats and at-risk boats. So everything you see out there, if it looks ugly, it might just be okay, but ugly. And we can't do anything about that. If it can move through the water and it can, navigate, it's okay. It can be out there without being cited. But if it can't move through the water and it can't be navigated, if it's not able to be navigated, then we will cite it. The other thing that we talked about very briefly was managed mooring fields. We had a gentleman by the name of John Sprague who works quite often with the city. He's an engineer. He's also very, very much involved in the Marine Industry Association. And Mr. Sprague has been working for well over a year now on trying to help us design a managed mooring field. And what that is, it's a way that the boats are attached to something like a bungee. And each boat, you know that it's not going to be dragging its anchor around ruining seagrass, because this bungee prevents it not only from ruining seagrass, but also from bonking into other boats in that vicinity. If we get a managed mooring field, we know that we'll be able to get rid of some of those boats that are over there in the lagoon that are messing in the water and everything, and then move the good boats to this managed mooring field. And we will have a pump out service. And that's another thing that John mentioned in our meeting. He's working now on having a pump out service for the boats that are around Peanut Island that are not pumping out on a regular basis. And that's something that we've just got to be so worried about, because we know that dive site over by Blue Heron Bridge is internationally known. People from all over the world come to dive there. And if we let that get ruined, we will lose a big part of our tourism dollars in this city. So we're very, very concerned about that. I think we've covered everything there. If you have any questions, again, please email stbrown@rivierabeach.org, and we'll be happy to answer them before we're done. Thank you very much, Ms. Busby. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair.
And it looks like Chief Osgood has joined us.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes, maybe you can tell us about the Marine unit.
All right, first of all, I apologize. Everything was working 45 minutes ahead of time, then all of a sudden this happened. Go explain that. So our Marine unit have been aggressively pursuing the derelict vessels out in our waterways. We had 4. So now we're down to 2. But let me talk about one of the fellows voluntarily came down and removed his vessels. He's working on it. So then the 2 of the vessels are owned by one person, Isaac Sanchez. Made contact with Mr. Sanchez, and he's working on getting the vessels out. He was issued citations, I believe, on July 10th. He has a 21-day notice to get them out. Then we go with the next step. We've been in contact with him many times. He swears that he'll be out for 21 days, which is August 1st. We're prepared to follow up with him to make sure that he removed those 2 vessels. The 3rd vessel, questions, the 4th vessel, Susie says, let me see something. Yeah, that vessel was sea towed out, and we have a bill that we're probably going to eat for $1,100 with that vessel. But we had to tow it away and to get it out, mainly because we have served this individual a couple of times. He's out of state, and with the COVID-19 being in place, the laws have kind of changed a little bit on how we go about removing the vessels. And so we have to afford them a little bit more time, basically. The floating structure, I heard someone, Miss Lina Busby spoke about the floating structures. We have probably 12 floating structures, well, correction, I'm sorry. There's only 1 floating structure that's in our waterways. And we're working to come up with an ordinance with our legal team to get that one taken care of. And we spoke about liveaboards earlier. The liveaboards, we have about 12 liveaboards in the city. 6 of them are basically no problems at all. But the other 12, the other 6 might be somewhat borderline. And we've been aggressively, the Marine unit go out and check on them daily. And Ms. Busby mentioned that we're coming up with an ordinance to deal with the liveaboards as well. And for the most part, people, our waterways are pretty much better than what people think. They're clean, but we do get some real problems that we have addressed with our Marine unit. Now, we have gotten complaints from aboard, but nothing that we can see that we have documents of floating feces in the waterways. We're going to guess that it does go on, but we haven't had any real written complaints or anybody to call to make that complaint. When we go out to go out and see it, should I say, to look for it, the Marine unit, they can't find it. Now, we're not going to say because they don't find it, it doesn't go on. They just can't cite it unless, one, they find it and know where it's coming from. So, I mean, our Marine unit have done a really good job. Now, let's start with Jackson and Officer Broad, which you met last week, Councilwoman, and he's really good at the laws. He stays in touch with FWC and PBSO Marine unit. And I have nothing further on that, but any questions for me?
I don't think so. Ms. Busby, so I think when people cross the bridge, the thing that, in addition to the sunken vessels that are there, which are obviously a problem, and those are the ones that we're really working to get lagoon keepers to haul them out. But the thing that bothers most people, I think, are the liveaboards. And so maybe you could speak a little bit about what it is. And Chief Osgood said there were a dozen of them, and 6 of them seem to be okay. Okay. What are we doing? I think I lost your. You're over on the side.
Here, okay. So we have to be clear in that not every liveaboard is in a derelict condition. So, and liveaboards actually, when Mr. Evans came on board here with the city, it was one of his main goals is to get an ordinance addressing liveaboards with greater regulations. Because right now, our code of ordinances, we do have regulations on liveaboards. In fact, there's a provision that specifically says permanent liveaboards are prohibited. And what that means is that there are other sections of the code that require liveaboards to meet certain standards, like I told you about for their disposal of waste, but also they have to have like a lease agreement. There's, I might click off from you, but you'll still be able to hear me. I'm gonna go to the chapter right now, real quickly. If you can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so there's a section for liveaboards called, it will start in section 13, let's see. In Article 4 Marina Operations, there are requirements for these liveaboards that they have a lease agreement with the marina, adopted. Like there's many rules and regulations that govern them. And you know, the city can, if the city is not actively enforcing those code of ordinances, they can, because we have the ability to do so within our own code right now.
Well, I would say that would be something. I would bet of the 110 people listening tonight, at least 108 of them are saying, go do it. Please go, let's get it done. Because again, it's not, and you know, we know that just because something is ugly doesn't mean that it's illegal. But if there's a out there and not meeting the code and not meeting what we need, then we really do need to enforce that. So I'm sure that Chief is still listening and still on, and will take every action that he can against at least the ones that are not complying and not doing what has to be done. Right, Chief? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Ms. Busby. If there are any questions, I do have one more for Ms. Busby. Where should people call to report votes if they see something? Should they call the police department? Should they call City Hall? Where should they call? Is there a number they can call?
Right. I think I could try to look it up right now, but the best phone call to make is to the non-emergency line, and specifically they can say this is a marine issue, and so that way the Marine unit would be able to respond.
And Chief, what is that number, that non-emergency number?
561, I'm reading his lips.
I can't.
561-845. You got me now. 561-845-4123.
845-4123. So people can call 561-845-4123. And if you see something, say something, report it, and we will get right out there and take a look at it, because that's what the Marine Unit is doing. They're really trying to be on top of these issues and enforce the codes that we have. So thank you again to both of you for being here with us this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chair.
Anybody have questions, they'll be around to answer. Email stbrown@rivierbeach.org. And now we have the pleasure of having Representative Mike Caruso with us, who it looks like is no longer, I can't, here he is, good. And Representative Caruso, who is, as you probably know, representative to District 89. You know that the city is divided into two separate districts. So I always say we have best. We have two people always representing us. And Mr. Caruso, Representative Caruso, represents Singer Island, and I'll let him tell you a little bit more about who else he represents and what's been happening in the legislature. Representative Caruso.
Thank you, Chair. And Councilwoman Botel. And the other representative would be, I believe, Al Jaquette. So, and I enjoy serving with him in the Florida House. In fact, he sits right behind me in the Florida House. So we have a lot of time to interact. But it's great seeing you again, and I look forward to the day where we can be together and shake hands and have those little snacks I think you have in the at the meeting typically. But as you know, I'd like to give you a quick legislative update of what went on in Tallahassee and say hi to everybody in Riviera Beach and Singer Island But as a state rep, as a legislature, our only constitutional role that's mandated by the Florida Constitution is to pass a balanced budget. And this year, as in always, we managed to pass a balanced budget of $93.2 billion. And it's a lot. But for a state our size, actually bigger than New York, it's almost 1/3 of what New York's budget is, to give you a little relativity there. So we operate service more residents than the state of New York, but we have 1/3 the budget, and we're in better fiscal position also. So that's a good thing. In fact, we put away $4.5 billion into our reserves, our savings account in the last year for a rainy day. And unfortunately, COVID-19 is our rainy day. And about 2 weeks after we got done, we were in session, we were shutting down and having to look towards that rainy day fund. So fortunately, we don't have to raise income taxes in the state of Florida, or sales tax, or borrow money, because we've actually set aside enough money to cover the deficit that we expect because of COVID-19, unlike almost every other state in the country. So in part of that budget, of the $93.2 billion, we put away about $25.5 billion we allocated towards education, $17 billion towards K through 12, and $8.5 billion through higher education. And then we put 13.8 towards transportation. And the biggest part of our budget is almost $40 billion of 93 total billion dollars. 40 billion of it is for healthcare, which is primarily Medicaid. And then there was $4.5 billion towards agriculture. And give you an idea, some breakdown there. With regards to education, we gave teachers a $500 million pay raise. We were number 27 in the country in terms of starting pay for teachers. Now we're number 5, and we set the minimum pay level for starting teachers to be $47,500. It was about $32,000. And so that's a good thing. We should be able to attract some of the country's finest teachers as we go down the road here. We also increased the allocation per student of $443 in the last 2 years, which is a significant increase and gets us from about $7,500 almost to $8,000 per capita in our school system. One thing I was excited about, because I served on the governor's opioid task force, was that we allocated $81.8 million towards the state opioid response and overdose grants. And that money's going to go to fight opioid abuse and those trying to get out of there and fight addiction towards those chemicals. So that was a good thing. With regards to jobs and tourism, I heard you mention that, Chair. We funded Visit Florida, $50 million and $16 million to Enterprise Florida. And in times like we're having now with the shutdown of our economy, we really need those dollars. So I'm just glad that we were able to budget that and allocate those dollars to the state of Florida. And then another area, we fully funded for the first time, I think, ever, the Sadowski Fund with almost 400 million. Can you believe that? It only took.
How many years was the Sadowski Fund sort of, I shouldn't, how many years was it ripped off, I'll put it that way?
About 24 years.
Really?
About
And
20
maybe explain what's, I mean, I know about it, but just for the viewers.
Yeah, I didn't quite hear you, but you're breaking up to me. But the Sadowski Fund is a fund that is for low-income housing, construction, and renovation of low-income housing in our neighborhoods. It is something that is the money derived from the Sadowski Fund comes from every real estate transaction sale that we have in our county. And we take that money and we send it up to the state of Florida, and it's supposed to come back to us in our fair share of our state. We're a provider county, but it's supposed to come back in the form of money for construction of low-income housing or repair. And it gets rated every year. There's usually about $400 million that's pulled and set aside. And it usually gets used by general operations in the state of Florida. And it's sad because, I mean, everybody chips in on it when they buy a property in Palm Beach County. But this year, for the first time, I'm happy to say we're going to have our full funding back. Should be about $18 million, and we can do a lot with that, and it's surely needed in our communities up there in Riviera Beach, as well as down here where I am, Delray Beach right now, and throughout the county. So I'm looking forward to those dollars flowing back to us. Let's see, what else did we do? Jobs, the environment. We allocated almost $1 billion to the environment. We passed the Clean Waterways Act, which was exciting, and that makes sure that our rivers are intercoastal, the Lake Worth Lagoon, the sanctuaries that we so much treasure are protected from and made to be clean. So that Clean Waterways Act is going to really change our waterways and not allow the dumping of raw sewage into our intercoastal and lakes and rivers. So I was very excited about that. I personally brought back about $24 million of an appropriations. I had, and I'll start right out. I apologize. I had worked so hard to get the budgeting, the funding for the Singer Island. Was it the submerged lands acquisition? It was an appropriation of $150,000, which was a start. It wasn't the whole thing, but it was a start. And I'd worked it through the entire committee process and through the House, and the appropriations chair had it all the way through. COVID-19 hit, and the governor had to cut $1 billion. He had to veto $1 billion of appropriations to balance our budget. And unfortunately, Singer Island submerged land acquisition did get the axe.
Well, we thank you for that, Representative Caruso. We know how hard you worked on that, and we really appreciated it.
And we will be. I took a boat ride with county officials up there to over by MacArthur Park and the west side of North Ocean there. And we got in the water. We swam around. We know how pristine that that is, and we know that, by buying that land up, we'll make sure that it'll never be developed. Actually, 1920s, that land was owned by the state, and
1924, they sold all that land.
they sold it, and then
They were thinking they wanted people to come down here to live. They didn't know that they.
Right.
But anyway, we know better now, and I appreciate what you've tried to do.
Well, we did get one appropriation that's specific to Singer Island, and that's $120,000. It's called the Singer Island Dune Nourishment Project. So those funds did survive, and I was glad to see that. And then Lake Worth Inlet Management Project got funded. Some other North Shore protections got funded, but we got a lot of beach projects in Palm Beach County funded, and that'll all work to all of our benefits. But I will be back on that one, that land acquisition. We will do it again next year. A couple bills that I passed a substance abuse bill, which provided for the licensing of more peer specialists. Those are people that say, I know how you feel, I felt the same way. But I found that ABC works. People fighting addiction seem to relate to peer specialists very well. So that was, I was glad to see that get signed into law. And it also cracked down on patient brokering, illegal patient brokering. And as a result, I don't know exactly how the numbers are working up there, Councilwoman, but in Delray Beach and Boca Raton, we've reduced halfway and sober homes that are in our neighborhoods by about 60%. And so I know the numbers. I was up there campaigning just last week, and I got that kind of feedback from the people on, I was knocking doors. So hopefully it's working just as well up there. I haven't done a survey to find out exactly. But another bill was a hospital property tax exemption bill that says if you're a nonprofit hospital, you've got to, and you get a property tax exemption. You don't have to pay property taxes. That's by definition of being a nonprofit hospital. Then my bill requires you to provide the public with at least an equal amount of free health care to those that are underserved or underprivileged in our communities. So look for that to happen. And then I passed a Holocaust and a Black education bill that for our school system. And then I passed a bill for trust, and it allows trust to, it changes the way they can pay their tax, doesn't change their tax. It allows them a couple options in paying their tax, which will allow more trust, large trust to come into our state, into Palm Beach County, into Riviera and Singer Island, and with all the jobs that flow with them, allow them to come into our area. So that's good. Let's see. I talked about teachers, Clean Waterways Act, a couple other things. E-Verify we passed, the Sadowski funds, and the school voucher program. We almost doubled the number of vouchers for those that are underserved and low income in our system. So we've got that out there. And then of course we passed the tax package, which we have the hurricane holiday, and we have the back to school holiday. And then if there's anything else, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to take some questions on the legislative aspect of it. But I also heard you want to talk about COVID-19.
Not unless you do. I'm sick of it. Quite frankly, it's all I hear all day, every day. So. Well, we've been doing, I think Mr. Evans has been doing an excellent job keeping our community up to speed on what's going on. We have regular briefings. Every week we have a briefing with the community. So if anybody's listening, tune into my Facebook page where I announce them. My Facebook page is Councilwoman Dr. Julie Botel, and I always put things there, or I put things on Nextdoor. And if you haven't signed up for Nextdoor and you are one of my constituents, particularly on the island, Nextdoor, I think, is a great way to get words out, get the word out to people. It's restricted just to people you know that you live here. You have to be verified by one of the leads next door. So it's just for our community and neighboring communities. And it's a great way to get information out. So we've been getting information about free testing or mask distribution or food distribution out. So unless there's something you wanted to add about COVID, did you find a cure yet? I mean, we're really counting on you for that.
I think it's a glass of wine every evening, and that's what I think has been working for me.
Well, thank you so
I'll
much.
stand by that.
Thanks so much, Representative Caruso, for giving us this update. We really appreciate your taking the time to spend with us this evening.
Well, thanks for the invite, and we'll see you soon and up there in the north part of the county.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. Mr. Evans, the next thing on our agenda is the introduction of some newly hired Riviera Beach department directors, and we're so happy to be filling these positions. You know, it wasn't too long ago that the local press accused us of having, I think it was 14 interim positions, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even more. So we're, bit by bit, Mr. Evans is filling those positions, and we have a number of them here this evening, so I'd be happy if Mr. Evans would make those announcements. Call them
Yes,
on.
sir. Certainly, if I can have my department directors go ahead and activate their cameras, and then I'll give them a brief moment to go ahead and introduce themselves. We've been very successful over the last couple of months to really secure some very dynamic individuals from all over the country that have experience both in the public, private sectors. We have individuals that have I've served this country in military service and really looking to bring some great things to the city of Riviera Beach and be that reliable group of department directors that you can expect to call upon. So I'm going to start with, of course, ladies first. So we'll start with Ms. Althea Pimsel, who's our procurement director, and I'll let her share a little bit about herself, but I can tell you just a little bit about each of them before they introduce themselves. What I really appreciated about Ms. Pimsel was that she has served in every procurement related position prior to becoming a department director here. So she has worked on the ground level as a buyer all the way up to agencies 3 and 4 times our size. So, and has worked for a lot of municipalities, so brings a lot of depth to the agency. So Ms. Pimsel, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman. Thank you, City Manager, and to others. My name is Althea Pimsel, and I have began in purchasing at the federal level, doing what they call appropriated and non-appropriated fund acquisitions. Later on, I started working for cities and a little bit of a stint with the county. I've done consulting and do training all over the United States in procurement. It has been my passion for many, many years. So I specialize in helping build communities, help them in real estate development, and to strategically source all the things that they need, and definitely make sure that we get the best value and to maximize our funds. So it's with great pleasure that I can serve the city in Riviera Beach with their initiatives to develop or reimagine, as it were, the city of Riviera Beach. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pimsel. The next department director is Mr. Freeman. Mr. Freeman is going to be joining the agency here in the middle of August, has worked in large cities, Chicago, has worked in the university system, and he too has worked in virtually every position in library services and is really innovative and creative as it relates to technology and how to modernize our library. So, Mr. Freeman, if you can tell the group a little bit about yourself and what you look to bring to the agency.
Well, again, thank you for allowing me to speak about being able to have this opportunity to lead the Riviera Beach Library. I'm excited. I've been having meetings with library board, advisory board members and staff, and it's been going pretty well. And so I'm just excited just to get in here and start working to just take the services to the next level. So a little bit about me. I started off at every position in the library. I was a page, shelving books, got promoted to went back to school to get my MLS, my library degree. along with my master's in public administration, and I became a branch manager and started off branch manager in St. Louis Public Library, and have gone up the chain since then. Been promoted. I was in Chicago Public Library, where I was a regional director and assistant commissioner for the Harold Washington Library Center, the downtown library. And my current previous job was at Tennessee State University, and there I had the opportunity to create this preservation project that was recognized by the Library of Congress, dealing with augmented reality, virtual reality, and just showing people how to preserve their family history. So I am, again, excited to come aboard and to bring all this experience and just come in and just listen to the people in the community, to hear what they want out of the library so we can produce that for them. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. I will go to right now Chief Osgood. Chief, I know you've had the opportunity to meet the folks very briefly once you joined the agency, but if you can just share some of the great things that you've been able to deploy in the agency thus far, from the branding of the vehicles to our bike patrols and the things that are on the horizon for Riviera Beach law enforcement.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and guys, welcome to this wonderful city. I am so pleased to be here. The first thing I got here, Mr. Evans, I looked at a whole bunch of things holistically that we could do better in this city and the city can use. And we first of all, we initiated a bicycle mobilize program so that we can mobilize our bike unit anywhere in the city just about at any time. So it's a process that you have to purchase the bicycle, a small amount, and send them to training a small amount at a time, but we're getting there. I put together a uniform committee. And so as the agency and the city belongs to the guys and the ladies who work here, I asked them to have an input, a strong input on what they would like for the agency to look like, how would they like to build the city, and what can they do better for the city. And I put them directly in charge on what our uniform will look like. And so we put together a uniform committee, and the first thing they came up with a new badge concept, new vehicle concept, new uniform concept, and patches. If you look at our officers recently, you're gonna start noticing a change in the police officers as far as their uniform appearance, their facial appearance. And so they're excited to be here. I'm excited. And so we put together a mock-up and everything. We run it by, and we wanted to surprise the city at a little bit at a time. I would love to be able to hold all the bicycles, hold all the cars, and roll them all out at one time, but that's not possible. We have to roll them out as we get them in. So you're gonna see a new look in our police cars. They actually selected a new logo. Currently, our logo for the city says, "Service is job one." Can you see that? Service is job one.
Yeah.
First, they asked me, can we get rid of that? So I said, what would you like? They said, well, we serve the community first, and we want to go and protect the community. So let's go with serve and protect. Kind of like a little backwards. It used to be protect and serve. So I asked, do you mean protect and serve? They go, no, we serve the community first. And then the service come with protection. I said, I like it. So that's where we went with serve and protect. And that's their model, that's their logo. We got a few other things that we're gonna roll out in the upcoming year, but you're gonna see a lot of community programs where the officers are directly getting involved with the community to find out how can we help you to better the community. And the last thing I want to bring up is a PAL program. We will be rolling out a PAL program in the near future. We already just submitted our national letter of acceptance to the national PAL program. We just put in our little bits and pieces to make it work. So we get here early in the morning, we make it work. The reason why I'm outside, because I had to come and dress the evening roll call about some other things that we were doing. But I'm very excited about being part of their change. This is what they want.
Thank you, Chief. I only have, again, of the 110 people listing, this time I will say all 110 will just say one thing. Thank you, number one, but also don't you be taking away our dedicated Signal Island officers. We fought hard for them. So, I know budget's coming around, but we want to make sure that we are keep our Jeremy and our Joe over here on the island where they belong. So they'll be.
You got them. You got them.
Well, the two officers dedicated to Singer Island, so we're not giving them up very easily.
You got them.
As you know, I'm very happy about the Police Athletic League. I think I've spoken with you before about its impact on my own husband's life. So I'm quite excited to hear that we're going to be having that here in Riviera Beach. So thank you, Chief.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you.
And then we'll go to, you got a brief intro from Director Sermons, but one of the things that was impressive about Director Sermons is he has a lot of experience as it relates to economic development and creating a sense of place. And having that experience is certainly something that's very valuable to the agency. And so Director Sermons did have a retreat with his team and really to rebrand development services. And if there's an email, you have a permit, you have an issue and all that, you send him an email and probably within, couple of hours, 24 hours at the most, you'll get a response from him directly with regards to what his department's doing. So he's been doing a phenomenal job. Director Sermon, if you want to go ahead and share a little bit about yourself and the direction that you have for the department.
Yes, of course. So a little more background about myself. Yes, I am from here in Palm Beach. I graduated at nearby Boynton Beach High School. So the area is near and dear to my heart. And then after leaving the area, going to school in Tallahassee and then subsequently in Virginia, this is kind of where I started my professional track. And then for the Virginia Tech Office of Economic Development, we worked with a lot of those Appalachian communities who are really struggling to get their economies back on track after the kind of coal depression, just to figure out what assets do these communities have that they can build upon to really get employment back in the area. And that was one of the earlier places that I started to apply urban planning activities to see how they can make communities better. And that's really where my professional passion lies. But from there, Virginia, I, as you heard, went out to Texas for a brief stint where I worked for the city of Houston in infrastructure planning, as well as the University of St. Thomas in some sustainability work and campus planning. And then most recently for the city of Pearland, Texas, where I was the development services manager. And so kind of a hodgepodge of different activities that I worked upon, but they have prepared me to be here and serve the community of Riviera Beach, and I'm really excited to be here. It's been a great experience so far. The support I've gotten from the city manager and council members, and just the other staff and employees here. You can one thing I can say is you can feel the energy that leadership and Mr. Evans is creating here with all of the new staff and directors that are coming in. And one thing I noticed is that those who work for the city of Riviera Beach do it because they really want to be here, as opposed to other places, and they really believe in the potential and the promise of Riviera, if you will. And so I'm happy to be a part of that energy and bringing everything that we can be to fruition. As far as this department, I've been working similarly to City Manager Evans and being on a hiring rampage to fill these vacancies so that we can raise our quality of customer service. We have our building official who will be coming online on the 3rd of August. So we are really excited to have Mr. Grims here who will be joining us this coming Monday. And then my main mantra is customer service. We are just like the police force. We are here to serve first and foremost. If you ever have a bad customer service experience with anyone in our department, please let me know, because I emphasize more than anything. We can't always say yes to the request from the community, but we can certainly make sure you are well taken care of and that you get quality service in the process of what you're doing. So always willing to help. If you have any issues with development or permits, no permit is too small. I've worked with Dr. Botel on some driveway permits that just were taking too long. And again, no permit is too small for us to look into and see what's going on, what may be holding it up. And again, as quickly as possible, you want to get your shovels in the ground for whatever you have going on development related. Some projects that we're working on, of course, is going electric for our permit process. We have a lot of the tools in place, but it's going to still create or require a concerted effort for us to get over the finish line and getting the city all electric with our submittals and our review process, and that's going to really help with the quality and the quickness service and the time that it takes us to process permits here at the city. But again, a lot of good things going on in development services. Really excited about being here and being part of the team. And again, if anyone has any questions or comments for me or any permit questions, I'm always happy to help and serve.
Would you give them your email address, Mr. Sermons?
Absolutely. It is csermons, CSIRMONS @rivierabeach.org.
Thank you. I have to say, it is great to have Mr. Sermons on board because he has somebody that I can go to and I know he will take action immediately and get things done. And it's wonderful to have you here. I really appreciate the work, sincerely.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So obviously, we know that one of the most important services, and one would argue the most important service because it touches our residents every day, at least we hope that water touches our residents every day, is the water and obviously the wastewater side. And so we had to scour the country and have Mr. Jimmy Johnson, Dr. Jimmy Johnson, on board. We had to go what the doctor ordered, and we were able to lure him away from Texas. And I am so excited about this hire. He too has served in every particular position, from a operator, trainee, anything on the water and wastewater side. So he's got an acute understanding of what's happening as it relates to our water plant. He's worked in plants similar to ours, so he understands. And when we had the interview process and our consultant was on board, and their one comment after the interview was, "You have to get this guy." And so we were thankful to be able to get him, and he's doing a great job. And so without further ado, Dr. Jimmy Johnson with our utility district.
Yeah. Thank you, Honorable Dr. Patel and Congressman Caruso, also City Manager. I'm supercharged by the team that I'm actually seeing and hearing now. It just excites me to be a part of such a synergy that's moving. And I'm thankful as well for the opportunity that my Lord and Savior, Christ Jesus, has given me through the interworkings of our city manager and Miss Jacobs, and even more importantly, to the district's team, because it is this district team that provides those products and services to our citizens. And we're excited to be here and excited to just put our imprint in the legacy of the City of Riviera Utility District. So can I tell just a brief story? You know how doctors are. We gotta give a little story. So many of you may remember this guy by the name of Larry Dukinson. I'm only using his first name and not his real last name. But Larry decided he and his buddies, and this is a true story, I promise. Larry decided that he and his buddies were going to do something different. He was sitting in his backyard and he was wondering, what can I do different? How can I make an impact? So what Larry and his buddies did is they went down to the local hardware store and they received some balloons and some helium and bought a lawn chair. And this was actually in Los Angeles, California. So what Larry did was they figured out a way to connect these balloons to a chair, and he tied a cooler, which is beer, of course, into this chair. So Larry and his friends launched this balloon chair into the area. So what all Larry wanted to do was go up about 25 feet and take a good look at the neighborhood and see what he could do that would bring about a change. So what Larry didn't realize was that the balloons that he had filled with helium and the airway that he was going to be caught in was going to take him off. So before he knew it, he was 100 feet in the air, 200 feet in the air, 300 feet in the air, 400 feet in the air, 500 feet in the air, and he was getting a little worried. So his wife walkie-talkied him and say, "Hey, are you all right up there?" And he said, "You know, I didn't realize that I was going to keep going up, 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 up." So he said, "I think I need to start shooting some of the balloons so I can descend down." So he was going up, up, up. And what he didn't realize was he was actually in Los Angeles airport, waiting for planes to land, right? So the pilots were reporting that they saw this UFO, and you wouldn't believe that it's actually a lawn chair. So Larry started shooting these balloons, and it didn't help enough, but the police was called, and there was this whole big rigmarole about what Larry had done. And Larry was drinking his beer and shooting the balloons, but the airway caught Larry. So the police was called and intact, and here comes Larry coming down with the balloons. So of course, Larry got arrested. And the police and the news were standing there, and they asked Larry, Larry, why did you do this? And Larry said, because I wanted to look at my neighborhood and I wanted to see what I could do to change. True story, I promise. And the second question they asked him was, Larry, would you do this again? And Larry's answer was, yes, I would do it again, because you just can't sit there. So all of that to say that this special utility district, we can't just sit here to become a professional organization or to be more of an effective organization. There are things that we have to do. There are things that we have to attach that will make us rise above the norm, right? So one of those things is that we're going to partner with American Water Works, safe drinking water, as a national recognition for our utility. Of course, there's steps that we have to go through to achieve that, like balloons, right? We're going to partner with the Water Environmental Federation, which also has a national recognition program. We're going to standardize our utility with SOPs that we're doing in the industry. So it's our hope that our utility will be nationally recognized by taking the appropriate steps to equip and teach our team the things that are important. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I am the executive director of the Special Utility District. I officially started on July the 20th. Actually, I was here way before then, kind of looking around, just kind of like you, Chief, kind of looking around at different things and seeing what things that were needed. I'm super excited to be here with the city. I retired in Texas with 31 years of public service. I was in the 82nd Airborne Division in the United States Army. So yes, I used to jump out of perfectly good airplanes. I have been involved in public services at almost every level, as Mr. Evans has talked about. I've worked at numerous cities. I won't even give you that list. I've been a regional director in Chicago and Norfolk. I heard somebody there from Chicago. I was over 10 states. I was flying from the East Coast to the West Coast, even down here to Florida. One of the private industries that looked at our utility was actually one of my competitors. So I've done a little bit of that. I had a chance to be involved with the Department of Defense, where the Department of Defense bracked base realignment, the bases where they privatized all utility services out. I was one of the first people that worked for the Department of Defense when they privatized all their utilities out. So I had to go in and create a utility from scratch. I was a dog catcher. Yeah, that's right. I used to catch dogs. I was a garbage man. Yeah, that's right. I was on the back of a garbage truck. I was a laborer. I used to dig holes with shovels when the older fella had a backhoe sitting right on the side of us, right? I participated in as an operator, operating surface water treatment plants, groundwater treatment plants. We had wells where I first got my start. We had pump stations. I was told that I was too dumb, that I would never get a license, and ended up making history in the city of Orange as the first Black man to achieve the highest licenses in the state of Texas for water and wastewater. So not only did I pass them, I left them. So I've served as a department director in many cities. I served as the assistant city manager when Harvey rested right over Port Arthur. I was there as the assistant city manager at that point, and it was a catastrophe, let me tell you. And I know many of you have experienced hurricanes, but I've never seen that much water in my life.
I can second that one.
About 4 years.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. We're excited to have you on board. You bring such a wealth of experience. I did ask Mr. Evans prior to starting this webinar if he would speak just very briefly about the new water treatment plant, because this is something that we're going to rely on. I know Mr. Evans has to say about that. We are, in addition to just one top police officers over here, the other thing we want on the island is good, clean drinking water and plenty of it. So Mr. Evans has a plan in place to make that happen. Mr. Evans?
Yes, we've certainly had some conversations with Brown and Caldwell, and prior to Dr. Johnson coming on board, about looking to move forward with the creation of an establishment of a new utility district operations. We've actually acquired a parcel that abuts Blue Heron and Avenue L to be the site that will house both the utility district and our public works operation. We have had conversations with representatives at the state and federal level about opportunities for monies to assist in facilitating the construction of a plant. When we have the preliminary conversations that we've had at staff level is anywhere between 70 to $125 million for the type of plant that we're looking to do. And that's a membrane plant where you're going into the deep injection wells. You're not pulling water from the aquifer. You're going a little bit deeper to get that, more saline-based brackish water, and then running it through the membrane process to effectively provide a superior water product. And we know that in order for us to get there, one of the challenges that we have to realize as a municipality is that it's not a cheap endeavor. And if we're effectively going to move in this fashion to provide the product that I think everybody wants to see us provide, is that it's going to cost us, millions and millions of dollars. We're going to have to look at our rates and what the rates are levied. And then how do we look to address not just the infrastructure as we put it in the ground, but the infrastructure that's existing as it's piped throughout our community. So invariably, every politician will tell you the most expensive investments they'll ever make and never get credit for is investments in utility operations. Because most of the city's most valuable assets are all underground and reside at your utility district operation. The lime softening process that we utilize right now is a process that is quite dated. It is not a common process that you see in communities, especially communities of our size at this particular time. We anticipate that useful life of the plant is probably 7 to 10 years. So staff is always looking at ways to, instead of putting Band-Aids on something, how do we look to move forward with longer term solutions to be able to address the water quality items that we have? Because at some time, you're not going to be able to repair the items that we have in place. And so fortunately, with Dr. Johnson's experience and under his leadership and direction and some of the key staffers he's looking to bring on board, I think we're going to see a lot of progress that are going to happen very quickly when we talk about the quality of the water product that we provide, even at our existing plant, based on our ways to be more efficient, more effective, and deliver a exceptional product, because we know we can do better. And that's the thing. We know we can do better. Now having the leadership and the key staff members in the right seats on the bus, we'll be able to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Edwards, and thank you, Dr. Johnson, again. I believe we have one other staff member who is not here, who was just appointed to the position, is Chief Kurd. And many of my constituents already are familiar with Chief Kurd because he's been doing our emergency operations work and so on. But he has just been named to be the new fire chief. He's moving from the interim position, or whatever it was, interim, I guess, position, to be the new fire chief. So we're very happy to have Chief Kurd move into that position. He's an excellent asset to the community, as we all know. Sam tells me we have 5 or 6 questions. So Sam, if you want to read them, some of those questions may be for staff, maybe for me or Mr. Evans. So Sam, do you just want to go ahead and read the questions?
Yes, we have questions and statements. One from Lee Innocenti. On RivieraBeach.org, about 7 boats are identified as derelict. The website says the tow issued citations and arrest warrants for misdemeanors. Some owners have signed the derelict boat vessel's notification letter and administrative rights package. What happens next and when?
Okay, so that's for Chief Osgood and the Marine Unit. What happens next after we'll sign off on the derelict boat?
We have another comment from Ralph Daniel Raw. He asks, they just said the West.
Sam, let's let Chief answer that first.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next step is it goes to the courts. So the courts, for the 2 that we have now, August 21st, we have to take that paperwork and go back to the courts, and the court's going to say, okay, now you go to the next process. You have to issue a different process before you can go ahead and pull them out. Even when you pull them out now, keep in mind, just as far as my understanding, that's a cost that goes to us until we get a chance to get the funding back, which we may never, from the owner. The other part of it is, the second way of doing this is to wait for the state to give us the funding to move those vessels out. And because of COVID-19, there's no sight on when that's going to happen.
Thank you, Chief. Go ahead, Sam. What's the next one?
We have another statement from Ralph Daniel Raw. He asks, they just said that the west side of Ocean Drive cannot be residential, but there are 2 lots where people are building something about halfway up Singer Island. Is it illegal? How many can be built destroying the waterways? Also, when I see campfires on Little Money Island in the middle of the night, whom should I call to report it? Thank you.
Oh, well, we are dealing with the issues. I can't say too much about it because there are legal matters involved, but I will say that there is to be no construction on the west side of North Ocean Drive. That is a special preservation area. As soon as we pass the ordinance that brings our zoning into compliance with our comprehensive plan, there will be no building on those sites. But Chief, could you answer the question about fires on the Little Munyon? If people see bonfires or whatever over on Little Munyon, should they call the non-emergency police number, or is there? That's not our jurisdiction, but can they report it to you and then you'll pass it on?
They can still, yes, Councilwoman. They can still call the non-emergency number, and what our dispatch would do, they turn it over to FEC or even PSO, depending on who Waterways it is. So even if they see something that does not necessarily patrol in the city of Riviera Beach, you can still dial the non-emergency number, and our dispatch would dispatch the right authority. Sometimes even notify Coast Guard.
Great. Okay. And would you just repeat that non-emergency number one more time? 561-845?
845-4123. I'm just thinking about 123, but put the 4 first.
Right. 845-4123. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Sam. Next one.
We have another question from George Carter, actually a statement. Every vessel needs proof of pump out and must have a light on at night. Sent from my phone, George Carter.
And I think the chief will always look into, I believe that our Marine unit can board vessels, and you can think about that, Chief. I don't know as much as you do about that, to be sure that they do have pump out services. We want to be sure that they've got a pump out plan, and that they, what was the last about lights at night? Yes, Chief?
I'm not sure about the lights at night, but the pumps, they're supposed to have a pump or working toiletries, or it doesn't have to be working toilets. They have to have a facility that they can toilet in, and then they go out and dump it. They don't dump it in their waterways. Our Marine unit have been doing just that, been checking the vessels to see if they had the proper toiletries inside, and they have. They haven't. Now, as far as the lights, I can double check that. I know they're supposed to have lights when they're operating, but I guess if it's nighttime and they're just sitting there, I'm not sure what they can do about it. I have to check the laws on it.
Right. Okay. I'll post once I get that word from Chief. I'll post it on my Facebook page and next door. Okay, Sam. Next one.
We have another comment by Lee Innocenti. She asked, "What is pump out service?"
Okay. Pump out service means when you've got a head on the boat, it gets filled up, and you need to have somebody come along and pump that out so that it doesn't get dumped into the water. And that's the pump out. And you can have, if we were to have a managed mooring field, we would provide that service. We would have a pump out boat going from boat to boat and being sure that we're pumped out properly. So that's what a pump out service is.
I missed that question. What was the question about? What now?
The question is, what is a pump out service? And what you're doing is you're pumping out the waste from the head.
Right.
Right. Okay, go ahead, Sam.
We have another question from George Carter. What is the status of the proposed mooring field?
We are, unfortunately, I think some of the funding that we were going to use for that got cut, as Representative Caruso mentioned. A number of things were cut, but we're still pursuing it, and I will let Mr. Carter know personally what progress we're making when I have a report back from Johnson Brake. Anything else, Sam?
We have another statement from Wally Morin. You cannot prohibit liverboards, violation of Florida Statute 327.60.
Okay, well, we'll let our legal department deal with that. I'll get a report from them as to whether or not we can prohibit liverboards. I think we probably have some leeway there for us to do as a municipality what we need to do. Anything else, Sam?
No, that's all our comments.
Mr. Evans, anything else from you?
No, Madam Chair.
I wanted to thank staff for being here. I know it's not in your regular working hours, and I appreciate your spending the time with us this evening. And welcome to all of you again. We are excited to have you here at Riviera Beach and Singer Island. I want to say that this meeting was recorded, and I'm going to make it available to people. I want to say that I have been working with the Friends of the Riviera Beach Schools, which you may know is a 501c3 foundation that I started, but I'm no longer a director on it. Working to do a catch-up program for the students in Riviera Beach, because so many of our kids have been learning via a computer, and not everyone has a reliable internet connection, nor does everyone have an appropriate laptop or tablet to use. And so the Friends of the Riviera Beach Schools is looking for donations, and they can be sent to I would say, let's see. Okay, I'll post something about that on my Facebook page or on Nextdoor, the Friends of the Riviera Beach Schools. Well, I think that's it for this evening. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And my next Singer Island Town Hall meeting will be on October 16th. Let me check that date. No, sorry, glad I checked. October 15th at 6 o'clock. So we'll be seeing you again October 15th. If we're still in the midst of this pandemic, we'll do it the same way again. Thank you all for checking in. Have a good evening. Bye.